You know, I've been so excited for the Batman. No matter how good the movie actually was, it could never meet my expectations, which is why I must begrudgingly and unfortunately say that the Batman was wild. What are you talking about? 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Oh my goodness, the words are... So yes, I've been looking forward to the Batman for 3+ years now. Go check out my other video if you want to know all of that lore. But let's get into the main course. The Batman. If you haven't already seen it, then I don't know what you're doing here because, like, come on. You clearly need to go buy yourself a ticket and see it in theaters. That is the true, authentic experience. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to sell you a ticket here or convince you why you should go see the Batman. The only reason I'm here is to tell you why it was so good. So, there's gonna be spoilers. What do you expect? I'm gonna get into the story analysis and not spoil it? Come on, buddy. In my time, I've seen a lot of movies. Usually movies leave you wanting more, especially the good ones. You want a sequel, you want a spin-off TV show, you want more. Well, that is not the case with the Batman. When it comes to the Batman, you want to be in the movie. The Batman is not a movie you want to visit for 3 hours and then move on. This is somewhere that you would like to stay for the rest of your life. Gotham has had many different adaptations through the years, from the bustling, grounded metropolis we see in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, to the exaggerated neon wonderland we see in Tim Burton's films. But you have never seen a Gotham like this. Just like the hero that the movie is named after, this takes place at night. But that doesn't mean that this Gotham is enshrouded within an abyss of darkness. Lights, color, and detail paint the most vivid Gotham we've ever seen. Where Christopher Nolan used applicable anchors to constantly remind you that his series was grounded in reality, Matt Reeves simply depicts a vision of Gotham which is undeniably realistic. Nobody has to constantly remind you that this is realistic because that makes sense, because the movie feels realistic. The story never lingers in one place for long. You are all over the place. Start at point A, go to point C, go to point B, go back to point A, back to D. You're chasing to keep up, but it's going at a steady pace so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Whereas in the other films, citizens simply exist so that Batman can save them from inevitable danger. Each and every inhabitant of this Gotham interpretation has a purpose and meaning, has an individual story arc that you get to see play out through the course of the Riddler's horrific scheme. They don't just tell you that the city is corrupt. They show you. Gotham works like clockwork to a T. They've even got these side things thrown in to where you won't notice them the first time you watch it, but by the second time you start to notice that the first scene where you see Batman go into the investigation to see who killed the mayor, this one cop tells him, no, you can't go in the room, but then by the end of the movie, that cop is helping Batman figure out the Riddler's endgame. So tiny and discreet that you don't notice, but it brings together this fresh air that breathes a realistic value to the Batman. This is a gruesome and gritty noir mystery. We get to see Batman in the field working alongside Commissioner Gordon for the first time in what feels like forever. Not like how in the other films where Gordon at most tells Batman where to go and who to beat up, because they are partners in this movie. Besides the fact that Gordon is part of the police and Batman works a little bit outside of it, the only difference between these two characters is that one of them is wearing a bat costume. They are busting mysteries like this as Scooby-Doo. We get to see Batman actually think for once, using his wit. He's not cross-analyzing with all these gadgets. All he's got is his suit and his brain, which is a tool of his arsenal just as important as his fists. The fight scenes in here are captivating. Every punch thrown lands. You feel the impact. You're never left suspending your disbelief, but in the same regards, there's something magical to this that feels like it can't happen, but then it convinces you it can. The narrative winds like a snake through Gotham's underbelly, masterfully connecting one character to the next so that all the character story arcs all come full circle into one grand design. You know, I'm not gonna lie, going into this, I didn't expect to be wowed by the performance seen by Batman. He's a genuinely uninteresting character. I mean, he's cool and all, but I mean, he's flat. He doesn't ever change. He's just angry. But Robert Pattinson, wow! It was captivating. I felt like the Batman was the main character of the Batman, something I can't say about his presence in the Dark Knight trilogy or any of the preceding Batman films. He takes front and center stage, steals the spotlight, and you are constantly reminded of why this is a Batman movie and not a movie about Gotham starring the Batman. That being said, I was also extremely impressed by Catwoman and Penguin especially. I wasn't expecting them to have very significant roles. I thought at most they might get like 15-20 minutes screen time, but no, they each have significant massive roles in this story, Catwoman more so than the Penguin, and paints the timeless trope we've seen over and over that Batman must always work alone and must never get connected to anyone else, but does so in a new light. Now, I've seen myself a fair share of Batman stories, and I watched the trailer so many times, I pretty much was expecting to go in here and know what was gonna happen. That was not the case at all. I was on the edge of my seat. This interpretation of Batman is far from perfect, so he makes so many mistakes. Up against a terrorist like the Riddler, you can't help but wonder if maybe he's out of his depth, creating an atmosphere which makes you uncomfortable and squirm. It really presses that PG-13 rating. It goes places you'd think they'd never go, and then some. And I don't mean that this is necessarily realistic so much as authentic. When we get these otherwise insignificant details, such as the bat signal lighting up against the night sky, you feel like you get something new from something you think you've seen 1,000 times before. And believe me, you've never seen anything quite like this. We get a totally fresh interpretation of Bruce Wayne. You get to actually see and feel how scared people are of Batman, which is a big part of the story, which culminates into a sudden transformation from a symbol of fear to a symbol of hope. I could babble on for hours telling you what I liked about this movie. There are so many good scenes, and it just keeps upping the stakes and upping the intensity. Just because its pace is in check doesn't mean it's gonna slow down for 1 second. I've said it before and I seriously mean it. This is a Batman you've never seen before. Any other adaptation you've seen on screen is not Batman. This is the authentic, genuine Batman. In any other scenario, I'd say that the Riddler stole the show. Just as Heath Ledger carried The Dark Knight, this Riddler is horrific and terrifying. But surprisingly, somehow, Batman remains the main character, as everything comes full circle. Whether you are a weary, time-honored veteran or a hyper-OCD critic, whether you've stuck with Batman since his grand debut and followed his unique evolution through the years, or you're meeting Batman for the first time, this is something you have never seen before, and something completely different. No matter how you go into this movie, you will leave and know who the Batman is.